you're already a heretic just by being a conservative to most people on the college educated left, right? You don't have to say anything. You don't have to say any of the stuff you're saying. You're an open conservative. And so there's this whole like dissident left, right? Which I'm not a part of that, but maybe I was a part of that at some point, driven out of the left by the woke stuff, let's say. That's generally what you can refer to the dissident left. Rogan might be like the flagship for that, let's say. And I guess I'm curious, as a conservative, what is your call to this dissident left? That's obviously you have the completely shared enemy. The dissident left's getting destroyed by the stuff. What do you tell them? How do you get them to rally?
So, yeah, this is a very interesting thing, and that I think that most people, if they see my views, right, they're like, those views are very, very left leaning. Like a lot of them are very left leaning, right? Like the gender equality, white access to education, equality more generally within society, or at least equality of opportunity. The protecting minority communities, protecting the LGBT community. A lot of these views are very left leaning. And I do not think the dissident left really exists. If you go to a mainstream media operation right now, and I talk to one of their reporters, and I go, Joe Rogan, what are his politics? They would say he is a far-right extremist. Now, he isn't. He is dissident left. Like, he is very obviously dissident left. I think that a lot of people haven't realized that the left of today is not the left of yesterday. There is no longer room for you guys anymore. And what's interesting is the right is transforming society. If I look at the core between what left and right politics are, the left has become just the party of the monoculture. That is their goals, is the increase of monoculture. Whereas the right has become an alliance of many highly diverse cultural groups, some of which are very left-leaning in their ideologies, that's goal is primarily and only to protect these cultural groups intergenerationally and to create a high level of intergenerational cultural transference. Now, the left tries to blind many people to this fact. Because if the left realized what the right has actually become, I think a lot of people in the left would be like, hey, wait, they're not as bad as I thought they were. So like we go into like one just obvious truth. Joe Rogan, not Joe Rogan, what's his name? Andrew Tate, one of the primary influencer on the right. Last year he converted to Islam, right? The left would have you think that the right is Islamophobic, right? The right did not kick him out when he converted to Islam. The religious, right, they said, great, you have found faith. It's not my faith, but you joined one of the cultural groups that is one of the spearheads of this fight. Like, we are happy for you. We can even just look at statistics. One of the statistics I point out is I think the greatest lie the left has ever successfully gotten away with telling is that there is a racist right-wing voting bloc that is larger than the left-wing's racist voting bloc. And I don't mean this in any sort of like underground, like I'm using the words weird or anything. 368 or 538, I mean, it's a major polling site, very middle of the road. This is not like a right-wing extremist group. Well, they did polling that you can look up on stuff like, would you vote a black person for president? Until Obama was elected president, a Democrat was less likely to say yes to that than a Republican. The truth is there isn't actually a racist base within the Republican Party, at least not that's bigger than the left wing. They asked, are you willing to move to a neighborhood that's over 50% black? And keep in mind that this isn't even correcting for the fact that the left has more black people in it. So your average white left is probably even more racist than this. The numbers were about the same between the left and the right. It was like a 2% difference. And so they have created a fake image of what the right is that has, I think, scared many people away from just being like, oh shit, I'm actually right wing now because the right has changed what its goals are and the left has changed what its goals are. And in many ways, this can create a better thing. So if you're in the dissident left, what actually achieves the goals you care about? You want more gender equality? You think you can push the progressives any further on that? If you move them 50% further on that, you've done nothing. You move the right 10% further on that, you've made a huge impact. You want to have more LGBT rights in this country? You move the right 10% further on LGBT rights, you have done infinitely more than moving the left 50, 100% further on LGBT rights. So by just giving up the charade and joining the right, you can achieve your goals more than you can on the left. And what's really interesting is you'll be surprised, they're a lot nicer over here. There's this scene in Madagascar, where this one guy's moping on one side of the island and everyone else is having fun. And there's this line in the sand, and it's the fun side of the island and the not fun side of the island. And they're like, you are always welcome on the fun side of the island. And I do agree. The right used to be pretty evil. The right used to see their goal in the same way the left today is a cultural hegemonic group that's trying to ensure that everyone sees the world their way. It used to essentially be controlled by Christian theocrats that were trying to ensure that everyone saw the world their way. But they have lost so much power that they are basically irrelevant almost as a political ideology within the right anymore. In fact, I point out, I go, look at the right-wing intellectuals in our society today, and you can chart this. Look at where their backgrounds are. Almost all of them come from a Jewish or Catholic background. The old evangelical right has almost no positions of power within the right's intellectual movement anymore, to an extent that is almost like unethical and disempowering. It's almost unfair how little of a voice they have, given that they make up such a large portion of the voting bloc, but they do have a very small voice.
Building on the notion that like even saying you're a conservative is just, there's just so much baggage there, I think, for the average leftist that maybe isn't in like the top 10 of like the intellectually engaged Rogan crowd or something like that. And so I think of something like, you're familiar like Balaji's network state.
Yeah,
he's got this concept of the grays that he's been developing, right? So kind of like, it's a very tribal concept, but it's the ultimate pragmatic political strategy, because it's literally block by block. How do you build the grays out? How do you build meetups? How do you get people to pay dues? But it's talking about kind of the same. There's a lot of overlap with the right, at least the exciting parts of the right that you're talking about. But it attempts to get rid of the baggage, I think, of like a Mitch McConnell or something like that. So I guess I'm curious what your thoughts are on like these
so
third
here's the cool thing about the
paths.
right in the US right now. We are at this amazing point in human history where we actually get a chance to choose what it means to be conservative going forwards. Trump destroyed GOP Inc. He destroyed the old right. He destroyed the theocratic faction of the party. But Trumpism is a cult of personality. It won't be here when he's gone. It won't be around forever. That means whatever the right becomes is something that the people who are joining it now and people who are engaged intellectually, whether it's with our podcast or with in these new intellectual spaces, they get to write like WRIT. They get to write what the movement becomes, and that is not something you get in the left. In the left, it is the cultural elite right now who basically top down decide what the movement believes and tell you what the movement believes. But the right, whatever the right becomes, it's being decided in these little internet backrooms right now, little conversations like this, where things are moved incrementally. And so you can have, what people are like, parties switch all the time. They switch in their ideology. They switch in what they stand for. Republicans were the anti-slavery party, right? They were the party of Lincoln. Do you have distaste in associating with that, right? Like, yeah, they did some shitty stuff for a while. I'll agree with that, but I think they're switching enough now, and they have the potential to shift enough in the future that they are a great hope for hopefully bringing some sanity back for the country. And actually, my wife is running in the next election cycle. Just this weekend, she's going to like a camp to like teach her how to run and raise funding and everything like that. So, we're looking at things like potentially building other countries, but we're also looking to fix things in this country, and that might be doable. But I will also say that the powers that be are incredibly entrenched right now, and so let's get rid of them. Let's get them out of power. We can do it. We can win. And create a truly pluralistic country, a country that's proud of being diverse, not for the reason the left is proud of being diverse, because they mean diversity of victims. Like they say, I like diversity, but also people aren't different. What? That means, why does ethnic diversity matter if ethnicities aren't different? Why does cultural diversity matter if cultures aren't different? Why does it matter that we all get along if it turns out that we're all actually exactly the same? we want to create a political movement that's proud of its diversity, but that's proud of it because we are different. And this is something you can see rising. I mean, you want to look at what is actually going on in the base of the right now. Look at Oliver Anthony, right? This song, Richmond, North of Richmond, right? Great song. I think it captures a lot of the points that everyone is really concerned about. But then he goes out and he says, America's greatest strength is our diversity. And to ignore that is the greatest political sin you can make. And the left was like, oh, he's going to get torn apart by the right because they're racist. No, he didn't. Nobody cared because they're not. It's an illusion. It's a painting that they have created to other and dehumanize their enemies so that people don't go into and begin to actually engage with what the poor in this country are doing. Because that's what the right is in this country. It's the poor, it's the disenfranchised. Do you care about the people of the country? Do you care about the workers? Do you care about the construction workers? Do you care about the people who are working on your roads? Do you care about the average American anymore? The people who work that's the right. The left is the media institutions and the academies and anyway, I could go. The tech CEOs, the people join the left because they want the money that the elites have. And that's why they don't say, I don't believe everything you're doing anymore. But it hasn't infected, the reason why it hasn't infected these lower groups in society yet as much is because they don't have as much to lose. Or they when they're weighing their integrity against what they have to lose by saying what's true and believing what's true, they have less to lose.